Hey guys, it's Emma Vigling with UIT Politics. I am back in the Dirty Jers, New Jersey, after our week-long Disappearing Middle Class road trip. Gonna start to get those videos up as soon as possible. We have so much footage, so it's really hard to sift through. And also, we've had just so much news to talk about. We were at the debate on Sunday, and of course, the Podesta leaks. WikiLeaks is dropping these Podesta leaks like spit and fire. They're really dropping as much as they can one day at a time. First day was just Podesta leaks, then the second day was Podesta leaks 2, and then today they dropped Podesta leaks part 3. So Jordan is very sick. He's been trying to get to the Podesta leaks part 3. I'm trying to sift through the disappearing middle class footage. We're trying to get this out to you as fast as possible, but Jordan already did a video number 1 on the first round of Podesta leaks, so we wanted to, I know Andrew says today is dump number 3, we know, but Jordan's going to do a video on that separately. I wanted to catch everyone up and do Podesta leaks number 2 and talk about what was discovered, what was uncovered, and what Jordan found yesterday. So what really stood out to me is there was a bunch of stuff, but the editor of Think Progress, Judd Legum, I hope I'm pronouncing that right. I used to follow him on Twitter. As soon as I read the story, quickly unfollowed him. He basically was feeding Hillary Clinton's campaign hit strategies on Bernie Sanders while the primary was still going on. Think Progress, what a joke that is. In an email to John Podesta, Judd Legum says, an article about Killer Mike that they thought could damage Bernie Sanders to John Podesta, the Clinton campaign manager. So this is an independent, supposedly, organization, Think Progress. They have progress in the title, and they are feeding information to the Clinton campaign. It just goes to show that organizations that I previously thought were progressive are completely in cahoots with the Clintons, because you can be progressive within the confines of the Washington elite bubble, but when you have someone like Bernie Sanders threatening to pop that bubble and bring his own change about, then you get a little dicey. It's not so much Think Progress anymore, of course. And, of course, Hillary Clinton's campaign is trying to cast doubt on the validity of these emails and documents when WikiLeaks has never published anything that has been disproven. It's just a way for people to... the way for her campaign to delegitimize all of the very damning elements of what's coming out right now. So, yes, the editor of Think Progress, Judd Legum, was feeding information to the Clinton campaign while the primary was still going on in an attempt to discredit Bernie Sanders. So, don't read Think Progress anymore if you had any doubt before. Another interesting development, not really a smoking gun, was that the Hillary Clinton campaign was getting advice to change her "No, we can't" message to Bernie is saying we need to change the world. Her message is "No, we can't," because basically, stop talking about messaging. What are you actually going to do for the American people? That's her biggest problem in her campaign, is she doesn't have an actual message and doesn't have anything to offer people. So they're all, like, when you read these emails, you see how caught up her campaign is about messaging. But what about the message? What about the message connected with policy? That's the issue, is because when you take every controversy or every particular talking point as itself and say, how do we respond to this talking point? How do we get the best narrative out there? That means that you don't really have principles. That means that you are taking an issue and seeing how politically expedient it is. Not, I think this is the right thing to do, I'm going to go ahead and do it. That's the epitome of the Clinton campaign. Another one is Neera Tanden, who's involved in the Center for American Progress. I think she's the president, which was founded by John Podesta himself. So there's an insane amount of fluidity between Center for American Progress and the Clinton campaign. She was talking to John Podesta in the emails, and she said, just game out what that does to Hillary if you're thinking about attacking Bernie, is the title. When we went after Obama, she got killed for it, reaffirmed all her negatives, strengthened him. We had no idea it was kryptonite for us to do that, but it was. I don't know if it was Obama or Hillary. I suspected Hillary. But it's really something to focus group beforehand, just my 2 cents. Basically saying, let's focus group if we should go if we should attack Bernie Sanders, how we should attack Bernie Sanders. Again, maybe just a word of advice, be authentic. That's what Bernie Sanders what got him ahead so much. Obviously, they don't really have it in them to be authentic. It's not in their DNA, and that's the biggest issue. We continue. I think the most damning thing, which is what Jordan found, he, I believe, broke this story, is Tulsi Gabbard, obviously a huge ally to the progressive movement. They basically threatened her, not just threatened her, scolded and went after her for her endorsement of Bernie Sanders and her resignation at the DNC. I will read this email verbatim. This is from Darnell Strom, who is heavily involved in the Clinton Foundation and is a Clinton bundler. So he raises money for the Clintons, raises money for Hillary Clinton's campaign. His actual job is he's an agent at some sort of he works at CAA agency. It's not a political organization at all, but clearly he has some money and some influence, and what his job is to influence people to spend their money on Hillary Clinton and to get her elected. What a fulfilling job that must be, Darnell Strom. And you can see he's a really kind-hearted guy by how he goes after Tulsi Gabbard in this email. The subject, disappointed. Really, really cry. Let's fucking cry about this, dude. Representative Gabbard, we were very disappointed to hear that you would resign your position with the DNC so you could endorse Bernie Sanders, a man who has never been a Democrat before. When we met over dinner a couple of years ago, I was so impressed by your intellect, your passion, and commitment to getting things done on behalf of the American people. For you to endorse a man who has spent almost 40 years in public office with very few accomplishments doesn't fall in line with what we previously thought of you. They use the words fall in line. How fucking ironic. Hillary Clinton will be our party's nominee, and you standing on ceremony to support the sinking Bernie Sanders ship is disrespectful to Hillary Clinton, a woman who has spent the vast majority of her life in public service and working on behalf of women, families, and the underserved. You have called both myself and Michael Keeves before about helping your campaign raise money. We no longer trust your judgment and will not be raising money for your campaign. Holy shit. Like, how unbelievable is that? First of all, this was in February 2016. The primary was far, far from over. So we all remember when Tulsi Gabbard took that very principled stance and then resigned from the DNC. They're basically threatening her. We were very disappointed to hear that you would resign your position, blah, blah, blah. They say, I was so impressed by your intellect and your passion and commitment. And then they say, for you to endorse a man who has spent almost 40 years in public office with very few accomplishments. First of all, Bernie was called the Amendment King because he was able to slip amendments that would help the American people into legislation that was then agreed upon by the very gridlocked corporatist Congress. And then to say, Hillary Clinton, it's disrespectful to Hillary Clinton, a woman who has spent the vast majority of her life in public service and working on behalf of women, families, and the underserved. It's such a cognitive dissonance. That's what Bernie Sanders was doing. Hillary Clinton was making a ton of money. I'm not saying that you don't have the ability to or belief that Hillary Clinton was fighting for working people, but to call it the sinking Bernie Sanders ship while he was surging in February and saying that you're disrespecting a woman who has spent her vast majority of her life in public service, like, cry me a fucking river. Hillary Clinton isn't some public servant that needs to be, pitied and stuff. Bernie Sanders was doing the same thing. It's just, this is an example of how the Democratic establishment bullies real progressives into submission. They're threatening her funding. And it's not like Tulsi Gabbard is, again, like a big name progressive like Elizabeth Warren, who, we differ on what people think if she sold out or not. But Tulsi Gabbard is not in the Senate. She's a representative. She's in Congress. She needs money. They really need money because they have 2-year terms. They have to constantly be fundraising. And for her to take this principled stance to resign from the DNC, it just shows how brave she was, because she understood the corruption that was going on in the DNC and she resigned anyway. And obviously, this is tangible evidence that the funding was pulled from her, from a lot of Democratic donors. And this guy, Darnell Strom, just disrespecting her. I don't really understand how you can not see the principled stance in this, but of course, when you live in the Washington elite bubble and you don't fall in line, which he used specifically in that email, then you gotta go. We're pulling your funding. So that was, of course, the most damning thing that I think that Jordan found yesterday. Jordan broke it. So if you see any story talking about that particular email, Jordan was the one that broke it. So again, we're one of the few people that are actually looking through these WikiLeaks leaks of Hillary Clinton's campaign manager's emails. Also, Kenneth Vogel at Politico is doing a really good job as well. And this is what Kenneth Vogel found, speaking of him. He found in the emails a memo showing how closely the Clinton campaign worked with a super PAC to raise big money while avoiding coordination violations. So, of course, they're not coordinating when they're working closely. It's just another example of how idiotic our campaign finance laws are, and how basically the idea that they are not coordinating together is a complete farce and just meant to allow for the fluidity of the corruption without any checks on it. Another reason why we need a constitutional amendment, of course. So I'll read directly from this fundraising leg of the email that Kenneth Vogel found. It is important that HFA not take any actions that would confer fundraising authority on priorities, staff, and consultants. That would take away their ability to raise soft money. Accordingly, while it is permissible for HFA to relay priorities, how much it believes a particular donor is willing to or able to contribute, HFA should not explicitly request that priorities raise soft money. For example, they give examples. Permissible. Donor A works in financial services and has been a long-time contributor. I think she'd be willing to do 6 figures for priorities. Not recommended. I want you to call donor A and ask for $250K. So you can basically use coded language to say donor A would be willing to donate a specific amount of money, but if you know that donor is going to contribute to Hillary for America, but you can't say, I want you to call donor A. So basically, just speak in code and all is good. I'm not even saying that Hillary Clinton is especially corrupt in this way. Every single Republican pretty much does this. Most of Democrats do this in Congress, but that's just an indicator of how the game is played. Corruption 101. It's just shows what a joke our campaign finance laws are and how Hillary Clinton is quick to exploit them. One of the reasons why a lot of progressives supported Bernie Sanders in the primary, and why I think Jenks said this and I agreed. If she wanted to get progressives on board at the convention, she should have said, from here on out, I am not taking any donor money at all. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to take donor money. And look what happened. She didn't do that. And while her lead has garnered, has gotten larger considerably, it's not really from progressive support. It's from people who are scared shitless of Trump, as we should be. Another email was when you found in 2000, I found this in 2004, they were trying to meet with Elizabeth Warren and Bill de Blasio to shore up progressive support. Sorry, 2014, I didn't mean to say 2004. They wanted Warren and de Blasio on their side, still when she was considering mulling over running. Uma Abedin sent out that this talking point. The 2 progressive friends that they wanted to shore up were Warren and de Blasio. Warren, we confirmed this meeting last week. It is sent for December 4th. We were having problems with them because this was supposed to take place in June. They do not want intermediaries discussing the relationship or the potential policy differences, as they feel that it is happening too much. They want to have a direct conversation on economic policy. So what this likely was Warren and most of the Democratic establishment believed that Hillary Clinton was the inevitable nominee, and Warren wanted to influence her on Democratic policy. I know a lot of you guys hate how quick Warren is to work with Hillary Clinton. They should be fairly diametrically opposed on economic policy. Hillary Clinton is a Republican in terms of how she deals with financial institutions, but Warren has consistently believed that she can work with Hillary Clinton. That remains to be seen. I think that there's a really good possibility that she miscalculated heavily on that part. But again, this was before Bernie Sanders entered the race, but it just goes to show that Clinton was already worried about shoring up that progressive support when she wasn't even considering running back in the late fall towards the end of the year in 2014. And she wanted de Blasio and Warren and anticipated that they would be the two progressives that would shore up that progressive stronghold. Little did she know that Bernie Sanders was coming off the top rope to circumvent a lot of that. So another specific email was when Hillary Clinton said that elite donors are the ambassadors of the campaign, or this was a memo sent throughout the Clinton campaign. Result is that donors don't feel like the campaign thinks they're important. This spreads, squashes enthusiasm. We need more people singing her praises. Elite donors are the ambassadors of the campaign. People are taking their cue from them. Elite donors are the ambassadors of the Hillary Clinton campaign. That just goes to show. It just goes to show exactly what we've been saying. Obviously Hillary Clinton is not, she has admitted, and I will be fair to her because in that other Podesta email from the first batch, she said, I'll admit that I'm a little out of touch. I have lived a privileged life, she admitted. But she said, I'm not exactly in touch with the average working person. And, that's obvious in the way that her campaign is run. And when they say that the donors are the ambassadors of her campaign, it seems to make sense. And here was another one. This was one of my favorites because obviously Elizabeth Warren is a hot topic in these email leaks. She was very, very worried about getting her support early on. This one shows that Hillary Clinton campaign was worried about their stance on Glass-Steagall and didn't know if they should support Glass-Steagall as being reinstated in order to appease Elizabeth Warren. So again, she was the tent pole for progressivism as they saw it leading up to the election and were tailoring their economic policy discussions based on that. Let's just reiterate that maybe you should have a actual principle and then stick to it instead of trying to pander to this senator that you think has a lot of influence, which she does. And this is another, I'm going to read directly from the email. I am still worried that we will antagonize and activate Elizabeth Warren by opposing a new Glass-Steagall. This is all you need to hear. I worry about defending the banks in the debate. We are not including Elizabeth's core point about this, that the 5 biggest banks are now 30% bigger than they were 5 years ago. And of course, by not embracing a new Glass-Steagall, we are not separating everyday banking from risky banking, her core belief about what's needed. Jake says that this is a political decision. Isn't everything a political decision with you guys? My understanding from HRC is that she left her call kind of leaning towards endorsing Glass-Steagall. Okay, that's good. I don't know why that's not a no-brainer as a progressive who gets things done when we already had that piece of legislation when your husband was president and doing away with it was basically the root cause of our financial crash, or one of the many root causes. A reinstatement of it should be a no-brainer. It should be a no-brainer to any politician who isn't bought. But the fact that she left the phone call leaning towards endorsing a reinstatement of Glass-Steagall, one shows that, okay, maybe Elizabeth Warren has some influence over Hillary Clinton. 2 shows that that she is reluctantly progressive. And 3 shows that her big banking beliefs need a progressive push. So if she basically becomes president, this new Bernie Sanders coalition is going to have to hold her accountable on every single economic policy decision. Because if she's not pushed by Elizabeth Warren or people like her, she's not gonna lean towards endorsing Glass-Steagall. She's gonna stay right where she is. So she has to have a phone call with Elizabeth Warren to push her towards that stance. But I'll take it. I guess this is what we're taking. I'll take that she was at least open to endorsing Glass-Steagall, which I guess is the wins we take when we have Hillary Clinton as the Democratic nominee. The email concludes, I understand that we face phoniness charges if we change our position now, but we face political risks this way too. Ugh. The phoniness charges are already evident in the particular email. So really, that was what stood out to me most in terms of Podesta Leaks 2. But later in the day, Jordan found an email that has really taken over in terms of a lot of media pickup. Donna Brazile basically was giving information to the Clinton campaign about Bernie Sanders and to use for their attack ads. She forwarded along an article and a Twitter storm thing, and Adrian Elrod, who works for Hillary Clinton, responded to Donna Brazile. Thank you for the heads up on this, Donna. So Donna Brazile, who I have heard is very open to embracing the Bernie Sanders wing of the party and thinks that's the best way for the Democrats to move forward. That is what has been said, but as has been actively documented, Donna Brazile and her involvement in the first batch of leaks shows that she basically has Hillary Clinton's ear, or is involved in the Clinton camp and was certainly not a part of the wing of the progressive movement who wanted Bernie Sanders to be the nominee. I mean, is there anyone in the Democratic establishment that did? And forwarding that along just goes, it's just dirty. And she was still at CNN at this point. Debbie Wasserman Schultz was still the chair of the DNC. Remember those dark days? Donna Brazile's a smidgen better. But again, anyone that was involved in the Democratic establishment was trying to make Hillary Clinton the nominee and actively doing so. And you gotta admire how far Bernie Sanders came with that much up against him. It's just evident in every single correspondence between the Democratic elites and the Hillary Clinton campaign. So I would summarize this by saying that is, I think, the juiciest elements of the Podesta Leaks Part 2. Jordan is, once he feels better, he is very sick, so send him good wishes, is going to summarize the leaks for Part 3, which we are trying to sift through those today. We have a bunch of other footage to get to as well, so busy day. But again, as these leaks come out, we are really one of the only outlets covering them. Every single TV channel is wall Trump. And I know there are a lot of mainstream people who say, stop living in the past. Bernie Sanders isn't the nominee. That's not the point. The point is that this is newsworthy. Hillary Clinton is the Democratic nominee. She had Wall Street transcripts released where she said that she has a public and a private position, and that is newsworthy. She is essentially saying that I'm going to say one thing to the public and one thing to the banks. And these emails indicate, most of all, one, I think the Tulsi Gabbard email just shows the strong arming and the disgusting disregard for principled stances by the Democratic establishment. And two, shows that Hillary Clinton is deep with her donors. Yes, that's continuing a narrative that has already existed, but it's a narrative that her campaign has continuously tried to disprove. So these emails disprove their attempts at disproval. So it is newsworthy when her campaign has a narrative that says one thing and these emails prove differently. Yes, that is something that should be addressed. And the media is so obsessed with Trump. The less nefarious way to look at it is to say, oh, they're so worried about Trump getting elected, they think he's a demagogue. I think he's a demagogue too. But the cynical way, and I think the correct way to look at it, is no, they're not taking a principled stance. It's just, one, it doesn't ruffle any feathers to talk about Trump's sexual exploits. He's not a part of the establishment. And also, two, it's a soundbitey story. Everyone can grasp sex scandals and sexual assault. It's gross, and it's also entertainment news. That's what it's become. People tune in to hear stories that are scandalous, and that's one of them. Corruption should be scandalous, but TV news has no interest in covering that, because they are in itself a part of the corruption and benefit from all those TV ads that are spent by Hillary Clinton and people like her, people who get money from super PACs and pay the bills of these media conglomerates that air attack ads all day long, funded by those corporate donations. So it's all a big part of the corrupt system. So to look, again, for actual news, you gotta look to us and other independent media.